today, Bill, you wanted to talk about the top 13 questions every leader should ask their sales rep.
Yeah, I sure do.
Let's talk about it.
Because having been around this profession for a very long time, I've observed something that I really believe is true, and that is that what drives salesperson behavior more than any other thing, more than compensation plans or recognition or various metrics, KPIs,
Right.
What drives their behavior more than anything else is the questions their managers ask them. Because what a manager is going to be talking about and asking about and what the topic of conversation, a salesperson is going to naturally assume, well, that's what they care about. And so, for example, a sales manager might say, where's the XYZ deal? When is it going to close?
Yeah.
And that's the only thing then it seems to be important to my manager. But if that's all we ever ask, it starts to make people think that that's all we care about. But we care about many other things too.
Yeah.
Like not just closing this deal, but opening the next deal and talking to our number one accounts and we maybe haven't talked to in a while, or some learning and development they need to do, many other priorities. So what I did is I wrote an article 5 or 6 years ago on this.
Okay.
And I want to make sure that everybody knows they can download that. I put the link right in the description if they want to read the whole article. But today we're going to just kind of go over this at a higher level. So
I love it. Well, let's dive into some of those questions.
Yeah.
The first one is, how was your weekend? And then you listen. And the family, and then you listen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that might be a surprise for some of us because maybe we think our job is to pull revenue, extract revenue
Right.
out of these salespeople. But we need to remember that people want to work for a human being, somebody that actually cares a little bit more than just where's the XYZ order. And so asking those, what I think of as the human questions, demonstrate an interest in them as a person. And what it does is it really emphasizes that we don't want people to think that we perceive as they work for us. We want them to think and believe that they work with us, that we work together.
Yeah.
And so asking those kind of questions just makes people feel like you actually care a little bit more.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, the second question we have is, what's the best thing that happened in your business this week?
Yeah. Another one of my absolute favorites. And so think about that. When we say what happened in your business, wouldn't we love it if every salesperson perceived their territory or their deck of accounts as their own personal business, like more entrepreneurial kind of mindset? And they were a little bit more intentional, a little bit more proactive with that. So by asking what's the best thing that happened in your business, it gives them a chance to brag a little bit.
Yeah.
By asking what's the best thing that they did, they're going to naturally start looking for the positive because there's always plenty of negative. And you never seem to have to ask that question.
No.
You're going to hear that. But draw something out that's positive and good. And if you get in the habit of asking that kind of question every time you meet with people, you'll see them start to literally look for the best thing that happened all week long.
Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
Finding the positive every time.
Yeah,
I love that.
for sure.
Well, the third question we have is, what are you most excited about this week?
Yeah, it kind of follows on the same thinking there, right? Not what are you concerned about, frustrated with, or depressed about, but what are you excited about? Because let's face it, some salespeople aren't excited about much at all.
Yeah.
And so we need to draw out in a conversation at least one thing
Right. Just
that
one.
they can look forward to and feel good about. And maybe there's 25 if we keep the conversation going, but we need to at least identify something to get excited about. And then it sets up an expectation for them doing this, and it naturally then causes us to ask at a later time, how did it go?
Yes.
And so it really starts more of that coaching dialogue that we want and directs people to focus on what can happen this week? What good thing could I potentially make happen?
And I love that you said in your article that people will then be looking for that in their week.
Yeah.
And not just thinking, oh, these are the bad things, but looking for the good so that when the leader asks that question, they have an
They're
answer.
ready to say it. Right?
I love it.
Who knows? Maybe they'd even take the initiative to type an email midweek and say, hey, I wanted to let you know some great thing that happened. And we could all use more of that kind of communication, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, the number 4 question is, which account most deserves our attention right now?
Great question. So one of the things that we probably need to embrace is that not every customer or every account is created equal. There are great accounts and there's not so great. And so I'm a fan of literally grading a deck of accounts or customers, which ones are our A accounts, B accounts, C, D, and maybe even F accounts that we'd love to get rid of. And so I teach this a lot in my workshops because it helps us understand where to invest our time. You know, you're familiar with the Pareto principle, that 80% of our business comes from 20% of our accounts.
Okay.
So it's pretty important to find which are those really great opportunities. Where's a good investment of my time? And help people spend a little more time there. I want to tell you a story. So this was probably 10 or 12 years ago.
Okay.
I was doing some personal coaching with a woman who was responsible for selling to universities throughout the state of, I think, Ohio and Indiana, something like that. And so I was teaching this principle. You want to look at your opportunities, the accounts that you're working with, and then rank them. Which ones are the A's, B's, C, D's, E? And she said, well, I don't want to do that. She said, I want to treat them all like A accounts.
Oh.
But here's the problem with that. If you treat every account equally, then you don't have any, you're not treating anybody like an A account. You're treating them all like C's. You average them out. And well, of course, the argument is, well, you never know where the next deal's coming from. Yeah, you kind of do.
Yeah.
Because these accounts is a place where I've built great executive relationships. They've done business with us for a long time. We have a strong differentiation with them in terms of what we can provide. There are places that are better investments than others. Not to suggest that we don't want to take a D account and try to improve it,
Right.
or find a brand new account and add to it. But this helps us think about where's the best investment of our time and energy so that we don't really neglect some of the large accounts that maybe we've become a little complacent with and a little bit too much expectation that it's just going to happen whether we work with them or not.
Yeah.
As I always like to say, we should be working just as hard to keep our best accounts as our competitors are working to steal them.
Oh, that's so good.
That makes sense?
Yeah. That's really good.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, the fifth question is, where is the risk in this pipeline?
Yeah, so let's think about that. Sometimes when we're sitting down to do pipeline reviews, it's what's closing. And so people will talk about naturally the deals that they feel best about, which is great. But in addition to what we're going to close this month, hopefully we're going to have a next month.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. And so we need some opportunities then as well. And so we need to look at what kind of can go wrong with things. Now, here's the funny part about it. I think all of us in sales kind of suffer from this affliction called happy ears.
Okay.
Where we only really want to hear the good news. We don't want to hear any bad news, right? So, but we need to look for the bad news and what can go wrong and troubleshoot opportunities while there's still time to do something about it. So you could look at an individual opportunity and say, what's the risk? That might be we don't know the final approver, we don't know the contract signer, maybe we haven't met the outside consultant that they hired to advise them. There might be relationships that are missing. Weakness in an account or risk in an account might be that we have a limited footprint and we're not dealing with 4 or 5 other different divisions and departments, and now our competitor's gotten in there someplace. So if we look for kind of these, as I say, these weaknesses or these gaps, then that focuses our attention on how to do something about that.
Awesome.
Yep.
That's so good. Number 6 in the questions is, what can go wrong with this deal?
Yeah, what can go wrong with this deal? So as we're looking at a specific opportunity then, we want to find those possibilities for error.
Okay.
So I'm a big fan of this concept, this management principle called Six Sigma. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Tell me about it.
So it was more popular 10 or 20 years ago than it is today, I think. But Six Sigma is a way of thinking. It's actually a way to measure deviation, it's called. So it's a way of thinking when we're running our business or developing product or selling, looking for what can go wrong. And so to achieve this level of perfection, which they call Six Sigma, which is, I think, if I remember correctly, 3.4 failures out of 1 million opportunities for failure. So it's almost absolute perfection.
Okay.
When we look at our opportunities, we need to be looking for what can go wrong. Where's the gap? Where is the potential for something to happen here that is surprising to me, or I don't understand, or we're going to get blindsided on the 27th?
Yeah.
So we're really just troubleshooting, looking for, again, areas and opportunities where we want to maybe shore up a relationship or meet some other people that we haven't met yet, or put together a stronger value proposition or a stronger business case, looking for, well, again, mistakes before they become mistakes.
Yeah. Number 7.
Yeah.
what bad thing would happen if the customer decided to just do nothing?
Okay, that's one of my favorite questions. So again, we're looking at an opportunity in a pipeline, and we know that our most fierce competitor in any deal is the status quo. To just do nothing. We're gonna stick with the same. This is the same way we've been doing it. We're gonna work with the same vendor we've been working with for the past 14 years. No change.
Right.
That's the biggest competitor of all. And so what would happen if they just do nothing? It's a question we need to ask. Part of our qualification with the client should be, well, have you thought about maybe just not addressing this right now? Or what bad thing would happen if you decided to not move forward with this initiative? And here's why I think this is important. If we can't come up with a pretty good reason why they need to do this, and why there's a serious consequence if they don't, well, there's almost no chance that they're going to arrive at that conclusion.
True.
So I would like to know that earlier, because in some cases, if they can do nothing and there's no consequence, I need to be aware of that, because I may not want to put this on a forecast and promise my boss this is coming in. So those are the kind of questions that really can help us do the troubleshooting.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So good, Bill. Number 8, it says, if we were the competitor, what would we do to beat us?
Yeah,
what would we do?
Great question.
Yeah.
So we know that our competitors are going to try to find our weakness. And the weakness could be, as I said a minute ago, in relationships. It could be in the product set. It could be in just the way that we're positioning what we've got for sale. And back to this idea of we should be working just as hard to keep our accounts as our competitors are working to steal them. Same thing with new opportunities. I like to think that we need to literally just outwork them. And there's this, I think that winning deals is directly proportionate to the number of people that we know within those opportunities. Not the only factor, but it's a huge factor. So when we start to look at what can go wrong, or what could be a failure point here, or how would our competitor beat us, one way they beat us is they meet more of the right people than we know.
Wow. In those relationships.
Yeah. So if I never get around to meeting the CEO or the CIO or some of these senior executives, but I've won the deal at the technical level, and they say, we're going to go forward with this. We're going to go back to get approval now. Well, if those people that are providing approval don't have any idea who we are or what we're about or how we're different or unique from the other guys, then why would they decide to buy from us?
Right.
Yep.
Right. What's the connection?
Right.
Yeah. Number 9 says this. Is there a lesson we can learn here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So think about that. That takes some humility, doesn't it? For a manager to say to a salesperson, what's a lesson we can learn here? I would caution saying, what's a lesson you can learn?
Yeah.
Because that makes it sound like that you got it all figured out. You're a know-it-all, and you're just testing them. So what's a lesson we can learn here will cause them to look at this, and in some cases, maybe we failed or lost a deal. What's a lesson we can learn here? Get them to verbalize what we might have done differently, and the likelihood of them actually doing it differently in the future goes way up. And I always like to say that we shouldn't assume that just because they report to us right now that we're smarter than they are, right? They might have some knowledge that we could learn from too.
I would hope so.
So always let your people see you learning, and to ask that kind of a question, I think, brings us into more kind of an even business stature, so that we're more partnering as opposed to bossing them.
So good.
Yeah.
I love that concept. Number 10 says, what's one thing I could do today to better support you?
Yeah, this is good. So sometimes a manager will look at an account or an opportunity in a pipeline and say, so how can I help? What do you need me to do? But I'm going to take it on me to go do something. Because it's their business, we want them to identify the things that they're going to do. What steps are you going to take?
Right.
Now, it might be getting some other people involved. It might be meeting somebody we don't yet know. But we're helping them to identify what are they going to do, and I'm going to support you. So I'm not going to go do it for you, but I'm going to support you in doing that. That's a great question to, again, just lay the accountability on that salesperson to make sure all these things get done, but then I'm here to support and help. And I think it said today, didn't it? How can I support you today?
Yeah. How can I support you today? Yes.
So there might be a situation where I can't fix it today. Or maybe I am not the one that can support you. But then as a leader, I can go find who can support them, and I can set an expectation of when we can provide that kind of support. And there are perhaps times when we can't support them at all.
Yeah.
But I'd like to think if the deal's big enough and important enough, we're going to figure out a way.
We'll find a
to
way.
support them.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. 11 says, what would a great boss do in this situation?
Another pretty vulnerable question, isn't
Yeah.
it? What would a great boss do? Because we're not saying, I know I'm a great boss and I've got the answer to everything. But what a great boss might do in this situation, again, gives them a chance to do some of the thinking. And just because, as I said, they report to us right now, doesn't mean that they have no knowledge of what a great boss might do. They might have been a manager previously, or they worked for a great manager in their previous role.
Yeah.
So what would a great manager do in this situation gives me an opportunity to learn something and them an opportunity to think for themselves and to come up with what they need us to do. Yeah.
12 says this, which of your top priorities deserves some of your time this week?
Okay. So a huge, huge opportunity here to help salespeople to remember what are those highest level priorities for them. Because it's so easy to get distracted. And as I've said in previous episodes, it seems like today that finding time to actually deal with customers is pretty hard.
Yeah.
We're so busy with so many other aspects of the job that getting around to actually talking to customers that's at a premium these days. And so what we'll want to do is understand and help them to conclude, maybe even ask them, what are the 4 or 5 things you consider to be the highest priorities this week? And what's one that we need to invest some more time in right now?
Yeah.
So we're directing and driving them back to what's important, not just what's urgent. So it's hard to have, 11 priorities and focus on them all.
Yeah.
But I think the question was, what one thing could you do this week? It helps to, again, center and focus them on something that maybe they've been neglecting, or just get the priorities straight so they don't spend all their day or all their week doing all this kind of busy work, non-sales stuff, and run out of time to do the things that they really need to be doing, which is seeing customers and moving deals forward.
Yeah, the top things,
Right.
the top priorities.
Yep.
Yeah, well, here we are.
Okay.
Number 13.
Oh, good drum roll, please, right?
What are our options here? Which path do you think we should take?
Okay, this is a great one, again, in helping them take accountability and teaching them to think for themselves. Because what we don't want is a whole team of people that are basically incapable of anything without calling us.
Yeah.
I had one sales manager recently tell me, and he's not the only one, this was just very recent conversation. He said, if I'm not there, Bill, it seems like nothing happens. So in this case, we need to ask that kind of a question to make sure they take the onus of those next steps for themselves and that they're not just reliant on me. So here's a little habit I encourage sales leaders to adopt, and that is tell the people that work for you, and the direct reports, no matter what level you're at in the organization, when you come to me with a problem we need to solve, come with 3 possible solutions and which one you think we should pursue. So first of all, that makes a little burden less on me.
Yeah.
Somebody else has done some of the brainstorming. But more importantly is we're teaching them to think on their own. Because we're trying to lift people up here and make them less dependent on us. And also, let's face it, as we're working through our career and maybe working toward a promotion at the director level or vice president level, we're going to need good managers and directors working for us. And so let's grow them up right now.
Yes.
Raise them up as people who can think for themselves and have initiative on their own and that accountability so that I'm not having to kind of just run the puppets every day for a living. Does that make sense?
So good.
Yeah.
These are great questions. I love all 13 of them.
I'm glad you do. I think that there are 1,000 more, but I just felt like this would be a great place to start. Just to remind, again, sales leaders how important your questions are to drive the way that people believe, the way that they think, the way they behave, and even write down literally to the words that they say when they're interacting with clients.